racists take offense at peaceful protests. A racist, Mr. Secretary, would do what happened to Ruby.
Are you calling me a racist?
A racist.
I'm asking a question.
Reclaiming my time, ask him to shut up.
That's a pretty. That's
Shut up.
we just say shut up.
It's my time.
I'm not gonna let anybody call me a racist, Chairman.
I never called him a racist. It's my time.
It is, gentlemen, will suspend.
He will
Gentlemen will
not.
suspend.
Tell him to shut up.
Gentlemen suspend. No, the gentleman will suspend.
No one will call me a racist. I'm Cherokee
I-
too. My family has been pretty taught.
I ask that my time be restored. I ask that my time be
The
restored.
clock has been stopped since I suspended the clock.
I will continue to interrupt as long as someone's
Yes,
sitting there assuming
I agree.
calling me
There,
a racist.
and as I said before, there will be no addressing anyone's character in a negative way. By the way, Mr. Green, I need you, when you're speaking, I need you to speak into the microphone because I can't hear you up here. But we will.
Evidently, his constituents heard enough of him because they voted him out of
Secretary,
office.
To get that last part. Yeah, that's Markwayne Mullin, the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary, who is a dick. Okay, I mean, he's just a terrible human being. I think you guys know my opinion of Markwayne Mullin if you follow me on Twitter. He is not a good person. And you see what happens. Al Green is duly elected representative, has been there many, many years. Yes, he did lose his primary because Markwayne Mullin's party members redistricted Texas and gerrymandered it and made him run a district against a fellow Democrat. But Markwayne Mullin had to get that little punch in. And then he has the audacity. So as you hear what, I wanted to stop in that last part. So that's fun. First of all, 0F's Al Green's pretty fun. But I want to go into the next part. So keep in mind, the last thing that Markwayne Mullin said to Representative Al Green, a duly elected member of Congress, was that, obviously the members of his district are sick of him, which is a political comment. So, Chris Murphy.
Is not true. And I would suggest they spend more time in their own prisons.
It's endless. Anytime somebody disagrees with you, whether it's a member of this committee, whether it's a state public health agency, whether it's a federal court, they are politicizing the Department of
Sir, that's exactly what you're doing.
Homeland Security. I've just been sort of chilled by our interaction.
Chilled by their interactions. So it's only political if somebody else criticizes DHS. But if Markwayne Mullin, an appointed member of the cabinet, goes political against an actual an elected official, that's not political. And that's the whole thing, isn't it? We are in a world where words don't matter, where they're used and twisted no matter what they want to do. And that's what we're dealing with. And when we deal with that, things get very ugly very fast. Because the basis of this government, the basis of our country in many ways is truly the First Amendment of the Constitution, our ability to have free speech. But when speech is always any kind of speech, either political or even more so considered violence, or any kind of free protest against our government is considered that violence, then we get in very, very big trouble. And that's the subject of the show this week. Got a little bit of a very much more in-depth show on a very specific situation in Spokane, Washington. And that has to do with the fact that protesters arrested based on a protest in June of 2025 in a very, very ugly way. And when you hear this story, if you haven't been following it, you're going to be shocked. But I want to run one more clip, just one more clip of Markwayne Mullin's testimony this week before the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. And this is a very telling one right here. Now, I want you to listen for very specific words that he uses in this interaction. Now, they talk a little bit about this database. If you guys know what's going on, DHS agents have been stopping people, taking their pictures when they follow them or take pictures of them and saying, you're the database now. But listen to the early part of this moment.
Only do to protect the rights of American citizens.
How can we protect? We can protect the rights of American citizens all day long. They don't have the right to assault my officers.
They're not.
Right
If you're driving by taking pictures of a situation, that's their First Amendment right.
To impede a federal officer from doing their job?
No, if you impede, you take them in. But if they're
to
driving
assault
by,
one
final question, my 9 seconds, sir,
making accusations
is: Are you keeping a database of American citizens?
Are we keeping a database?
Yes, sir. A lot of your ICE agents out there have said we are keeping a database of how do you get a passport if you don't have a database of American? How can you keep a database of American citizens, sir? Why?
Gentlemen's time's expired.
That's your authority.
Authorities, limits. But you got that middle part. If they're going to assault my officers or impede their duties, those are such key words because those two words are being twisted in ways you can never imagine. And we saw the outfit. We saw the deaths of Miss Good and Mr. Preddy because that's what they're doing. If you're impeding, so a protest, even if you're in your car or standing on the side of the road, is now impeding or even assaulting officers, which could lead to your death. And in Spokane, Washington, it's now led to the conviction of 3 people for simply protesting, for standing in the street in front of vehicles to trap what ended up being illegally detained immigrants who were here legally and were released by a judge. And now these men have been thrown in jail, and it's bad. We're going to get to that now. So I've got great guests as always. As always, I got the right people in my Rolodex that I can call. Rolodex, man, that dated me. I got the right people in my phone that I can call and ask to join the show. And we've really got a great show today. So I really want to get this. So again, I am Fred Wellen. This is Anonymous FP Wellman. You're here every Friday night, especially you loyal Midas Mighty. Man, I love seeing you guys in the chat. When I can join you, I'll try to. We really appreciate you being here. Let's get on with the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good thing I'm drinking water, not gin. It's great to have you back. This is On to Mox the FP Wellman, as always, Friday nights here on the My Subject, as I mentioned a few seconds ago. Doesn't Markwayne Mullin make you crazy? I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny when people were so relieved that Chrissy Nolan got fired and they replaced him with the baddest plumber, the most badass plumber on earth, Markwayne Mullin, who's perpetually angry and defensive and perpetually sticky. But the issues around DHS have not gotten any better. And we've got a special episode today I'm really excited about. We got actually a couple guests, and we're joined by some very special people. The story, of course, this goes back to a protest back in June of 2025 when people were protesting ICE. And then it goes all the way to here when we've actually got free speech being coded. And the key to that conversation, as I mentioned in the intro, the key to those video clips you just saw was the idea of impeding officers. And that those words that Markwayne Mullin said are very, very key. And I'm saying that word a lot. And we're going to talk about that with our guests. We got 2 great guests, investigative journalist and award-winning investigative journalist Aaron Glantz, who's also a fellow Stanford University. Bajun Mavalwalla, who's an Army veteran himself, the father of one of the protesters there in June. He's also running for Congress in Washington's 5th district. We got to love that. Let's bring both gentlemen on the show right now, Satchel. Hi guys, welcome to On to Moxie. Great to see you.
It's good to be with you.
So, Aaron, let's start with you. Can you set the scene for us for those who haven't been keeping up the story? You've been on it since the very beginning, right? So, June of 2025. Obviously, there's all these protests going on in the country about ICE. Talk about this protest in Spokane, Washington.
This protest in Spokane was pretty modest, all things considered. The former president of local city council heard that there were 2 Venezuelan migrants who were picked up and unlawfully detained for deportation, put a post on Facebook where he said, I'm going to show up and protest this. I'm going to try to block the transport van. Feel free to join me. A bunch of people showed up. There was a protest where protesters linked arms and tried to block this van. There's a little bit of pushing and shoving. Some people were arrested. The person who I've been following, Bajun Mavalwalla, who was a former U.S. Army sergeant who served his country in Afghanistan, showed up at this protest, was not arrested, went home, was going about his life in Spokane. And approximately a month after the protest, the FBI came to his door and arrested him for conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer. Now, this is a guy who did not communicate with any of the other protesters until he saw them there at the protest. The first time he met the former president of the Spokane City Council's Facebook post sparked this protest was in jail after they were both arrested for conspiracy. And so this happened last July. His father was also a U.S. military veteran and a running for Congress, who you've also invited on. He reached out to me because, as you know, Fred, I've been covering military issues for a generation now. So there's something very unjust happening here. I looked into it. I've been following it, as you said, for months. And the U.S. attorney Richard Barker for Eastern Washington State resigned rather than sign this indictment.
Wow.
And then we had the shocking news last week that Bajun and two others had been found guilty by a jury of their peers on this federal conspiracy charge, and now they face 6 years in prison at sentencing and up to $250,000 fine for conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer, basically simply for showing up at a protest against ICE.
Just terrifying. And Bajun, it's great to have you. Tell us about your son. Tell us about how you've been. That's this picture behind you. Tell us, Bajun, about your son and the framing on yours on Bajun's side. I mean, it's got to be shocking for you and your family.
Well, I was the first one with the shock because my son and his girlfriend were about to move that morning. So I had a kid's bedroom was downstairs, and I'm the one who opened the door to find two fully kitted up FBI agents and that saying they had a warrant and demanding that I produce my son. They had 10 FBI agents, a herringbone formation, guns, everything on the streets out there. My son has never been arrested. He held a top secret security clearance, right? He was in a position of special trust of the United States government. He rescued 40 Afghan refugees after the war, half of them minors. He is not just an upstanding citizen, he's an exceptional citizen, right? He served this country. He believes in democracy and our freedoms and what we are fighting for. Well, the thing is that when the FBI comes in, I said, okay, sure. I refuse to show the warrant. I mean, it's been this backward kind of breach from the very get-go. Also, in Baji's case, and this is why it's sort of exceptional, he was not on Facebook because he's not on Facebook. He is not connected in any way with any of the other defendants. He never communicated with them, and he was brought in as part of a conspiracy. Well, if you can't communicate with somebody, how do you fire? Telepathy, maybe? I don't know. But in his case, the jury found him innocent of all of the original charges. But halfway through the trial, 10 months in, the United States attorney threw in aiding and abetting. And I'm still confused by that. How do you aid and abet a conspiracy? Because if that is indeed everybody who was at that protest was aiding and abetting a conspiracy, there should have been hundreds of people on trial. And again, if you extrapolate that farther, anybody who protests is now aiding and abetting a conspiracy.
And that's where it gets scary. That's where it gets scary, doesn't it? I mean, that's where it gets kind of scary, right? I mean, the way the charges were manipulated and the federal staff, you went into great depth in the story you just produced about how like most of the elements of the charges were the jury voted against, right? There's just one element of the charges that he was convicted on really in the end, isn't it?
Well, the conspiracy statute is really broad, and it doesn't actually require people to get together and make a specific plan or write something out. It is a crime of intent, and many of the legal experts I spoke with thought that despite everything that Bajun's saying being true, that he still, nevertheless, his defense would be an uphill battle, not only because it's a conservative part of the country with a conservative jury, but also because this law that goes back to the Civil War is very, very broad. And so the reason that the U.S. attorney resigned was in part because he didn't think that a conviction was proper in this case. And so what we have here is the Justice Department using laws for purposes that go far beyond what most rational people would anticipate they be used for.
Right.
And so in this case, what the judge did was she gave a jury questionnaire to the jury where there was a checklist of 5 things that they could find the defendants guilty of pursuant to the statute. And as Bajun just said, they did not find that his son conspired to damage government property or hurt anyone or use force, threat, or intimidation against anyone.
Right.
But there was another option at the very bottom that they could check, which is that he aided and abetted others who did. And of course, he was indeed at the protest with all these other people, right? And so, so as you heard, this is likely to be challenged on appeal. You know, who knows what's going to happen next? One thing that I think that we can take a little bit of heart in is that the judge did not sentence from the bench, and Bajun is currently at home with his family. They went camping after the verdict to kind of get some headspace, so nobody is in prison right now. So that's positive, but it's still hanging over them like a sword of Damocles.
And Bajun, you know, you're an Army veteran, like you're a combat veteran, your son's a combat veteran. It's shocking, right? I mean, this is about this really is about the First Amendment. This is really about our right to protest our government. And the way they twisted these words of impeding, and conspiracy, these are key words, but I imagine that you're as shocked as I am, is that you and I really gave our lives and our bodies to this country, and your son did too. And you must be shocked by all this.
I am. It's very, very disappointing because what we were supposed to be fighting for, what did they tell us when in Iraq or we're in Afghanistan? What are we fighting for? Rule of law. And this is a Civil War era law. It was made to fight Johnny Reb. It was not made to be going after protesters. I mean, they sent FBI agents who could have been catching bank robbers, you know, mafiosos, people that are draining little old ladies' accounts of their life savings from overseas pig butchering programs. Instead, sending federal agents to arrest protesters. Martin Luther King, Chavez, and these other civil rights protesters were ever arrested by the FBI. So the waste of resources. But also, Bill, on one more thing that Aaron had brought up. I still believe in this country. I still believe in our system of justice. But the jury was not allowed to hear about the musical chairs of the U.S. Attorney, Richard Barker's resignation. The next acting U.S. Attorney was fired in favor of a guy named Clete Serrato, who has never prosecuted a case in his entire life, but he's a big Trump supporter, and he couldn't be confirmed by the Senate. So he's an illegally appointed U.S. Attorney. I still don't know how the guy's on payroll. And then it went right out to Todd Blanche. Jury was not allowed to hear any about that. Jury was not allowed to hear about the First Amendment, the right to protest. That was not allowed to be discussed. And finally, they were allowed to hear that the two guys that they were protesting for in the first place were here legally, that the arrest of itself was illegal. It means jury deliberated without the most germane information. And that's un-American. That's the danger here.
Yeah.
Because this precedent that this sets legally is that literally anyone who shows up at a protest now is to take to the extreme, and this administration takes things to the extreme. You're guilty of conspiracy. You already did just by showing up at a protest.
That is shocking, and that's what's driving you to run, right? I mean, you're running out there for a reason. I mean, why are you running for Congress, and what do you? I mean, is this driving your run?
It's not the reason I'm running, but it was certainly the catalyst that got into the race. I wanted to let everybody in the area know, because this, and Aaron could probably speak better to his words. Nobody was talking about this issue. In fact, until the trial itself, the local media wasn't covering this at all. So folks here in the district where this was happening, and this was the first time it happened in the country, didn't even know it was going on. So when I went out, people started saying, well, you should run for Congress. And I'd managed a congressional campaign for Dr. Bernie Bank the last cycle. You know, that's the third time I'd managed a congressional campaign. I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. And I'm like, well, that isn't quite the point here, but it did turn into its own thing, right? So sometimes you get brought into things, but it did also give me the opportunity to share important issues with the constituents in our district. And that's why I'm here in Waitsville, tiny little town in Walla County, talking to farmers and truck drivers and everything. I've been at it since early this morning. Fortunately, one of the reasons I got to leave is I got a group of people in the next room waiting to have breakfast with me.
I'll let you go. I'll let
that's-
you go do that. I'm not saying I know how that is, because I do know how that is in my other day job. So I'll keep talking to Aaron. You go talk to those constituents. Most important, I appreciate you taking time for us, Bajun. That's for our viewers. Bajun literally joined us this morning at 8. It is 8 a.m. in Washington, and I just want to say thanks. I want to give you a chance to plug your campaign so people can support you, Bajun.
Well, I do appreciate that. Please go to votebajun.com. We are on Facebook, all kinds of social media. We've got a fantastic YouTube channel. We do need, like all we need contributions, but it's national attention that'll make the difference here. This district actually used to be the Speaker of the House's district, Tom Foley.
Yep.
And the first speaker in over 100 years to get voted out of office while Speaker of the House. And that's the effect of this right-wing messaging. And believe it or not, they told the people in this district that if they got rid of Foley, the Republican that they put in would be Speaker of the House. And people believed it. I mean, we're lying to your constituents. That's pretty bad. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I'm out and actually talking to folks in the district and leveling with them. I think that that's what we need to be doing.
All right, get out there. Thanks for joining us. Aaron and I'll keep talking. Good luck on your race. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.
Cheers. So, Aaron, what's next in this case? I know there's appeals. There's actually even I think the defendants put in a thing to actually have the whole case thrown out. Can you tell us a little bit what's next? And then we're going to talk about the bigger picture, how bad this is for the rest of us.
Yeah, the short answer is that the defendants have made this motion, which I didn't even know existed until basically I'm getting a clinic on the extreme natures and possibilities of the legal system, like all of us are. But the defendants made something called a Rule 29 motion, which allows the judge to set aside a jury verdict if they think the jury verdict is based on insufficient evidence.
Okay.
And it's kind of a legal Hail Mary.
Yeah.
I think that it's pretty doubtful that the judge is going to agree in this case. She's a former public defender and a Biden appointee, so you'd think that she'd be quite favorable. However, she has been quite risk-averse and conservative in the way she's adjudicated this. As Bajun Sr. said, she did rule that the First Amendment was an inadmissible defense in this case. She also ruled that the two Venezuelan migrants who the protest was about, that the defense couldn't raise, that another federal judge ruled their detention unlawful and freed them. And they also were not allowed to raise the fact that the prior U.S. attorney had resigned rather than sign the indictment. They were not allowed to raise any of that as part of their defense. And further, she allowed that jury questionnaire that Bajun was objecting to, which allowed aiding and abetting to be something that the jury could find convictable grounds on. That was her decision as well. So I think it's pretty unlikely that she will approve this Rule 29 motion. On the other hand, she didn't sentence from the bench. She allowed the defendants to, go free with the 6-year prison sentence hanging around. She didn't schedule a sentencing hearing yet. She was really frustrated as well with the U.S. Attorney's Office. That, if you can believe it, the U.S. Attorney, in this case, the Justice Department, wanted to present a 2-week case against these protesters. This is a 1-day protest. They wanted to play body cam footage and put up ICE agents on the stand for 2 weeks. And she clawed that back to 4 days. And she said, this is a 1-day protest that we're talking about here. Oh, right. We haven't even talked yet about, there's a great local media outlet in Spokane, Rains Media, which has been doing coverage of this trial on a daily basis. And they went into the social media feeds of some of the ICE agents who testified. One of them was posting truly hateful things about
like
Black politicians,
unbelievably
trans
racist
people,
stuff.
calling them
Yeah.
mentally ill. So bad that the prosecution actually recalled their own witness to the stand to say that they thought they were horrible.
Good Lord.
And despite that, there was still a conviction. So I think the bigger question, and this is going to get to the other issue that we're going to look to discuss today about Markwayne Mullin, the Secretary of Homeland Security, is how far does the administration want to push this? Does the administration want to see this case in Spokane as a test case where they can go to a conservative part of the country and get a jury verdict that sends people potentially to prison for protesting? There's a similar case in Chicago against protesters. The government in Chicago was forced to back off those charges. We've seen cases dismissed in LA. We've seen, the famous case of the military veteran who threw a sandwich at an agent, and they tried to charge him with assault.
Great
There was
sandwich,
a there. But all of these jurisdictions, LA, Chicago, DC, these are pretty liberal jury pools, right?
Right.
And so the Spokane case is interesting because, it's a purple red area, and there's a lot of red parts of the country where they might end up with somewhat favorable juries. And I could see, Markwayne Mullin and Todd Blanche looking at protests happening in other, places like where you live in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And, another thing that might be similar to St. Louis is that the city of Spokane is quite, it's not liberal. It's purple. It's got a progressive city council and a progressive mayor. But the jury pool came from the entirety of Eastern Washington State, which is pretty red. And so if you have a kind of a blue city in like St. Louis surrounded by like a pretty red area, in a federal case, you're going to end up with a pretty red jury pool. And so I think places like St. Louis, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, we could, maybe start seeing some really more aggressive Justice Department action.
Let's take a pause. That's a perfect place to transition to the federal side of this thing. Let's say, by the way, we had great sponsors this week, so just pause for our sponsor, and we'll come right back. I want to pull that thread going back to Markwayne Mullin. This will shock you, but my summer is going to be insane. Our boys are home for school. My baseball season's roaring with my Cardinals, kicking butt. My day job has me running all over Eastern Missouri. I need easy and fast support for my busy lifestyle. There's one easy thing that only takes 30 seconds for me. It covers all my bases, and no matter what the season's going to throw at me. And that's 1 scoop plus 8 ounces of water every morning, and that's AG1. Now, AG1 is a daily health drink with a multivitamin, pre and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants. It's easy for me, especially. It's just 1 scoop, like I said. The next gen former delivers about 75 ingredients backed by 4 clinical trials shown to support gut health, fill common nutrient gaps, and improve key nutrient levels just 3 months of taking it. Now, I've got a lot of late nights in this job, long days, weekends. My life's never a dull moment. AG1 helps me keep going with one consistent, high-quality nutritional support every single day. So no matter how I start my morning, I start with AG1. Now, the one thing I need more than ever right now is a boost in my energy to keep going, and AG1 helps me get back the energy I need and bounce back from stress. So look, I want you to visit drinkag1.com/Fred to get a free morning person at free AG1 flavor sampler in your welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription, an $82 value. And all you have to do is simple. Just go to drinkag1.com/Fred. You won't regret it. I appreciate you guys joining us. Okay, so yeah, Aaron, that's a great place to transition. I mean, we started off with Markwayne Mullin and then the intro, right? And it almost sounds like, I mean, the way these guys work, I mean, it seems to me in the realm of possibility, they would seek to create protests, if you will, in those redder areas to make examples, right? I mean, almost to create cases. I mean, that's sort of a slippery slope. Maybe I'm being paranoid here, but golly gee, they just canceled primary votes in some states. So why wouldn't they do something like this too, right?
Well, I mean, all you have to look is the facts of what happened here. The facts of what happened here is that there was a relatively modest protest where they ended up setting in the FBI, right? And arresting 9 demonstrators out of hundreds who participated and put these 9 people on trial for conspiracy. And as you heard from Bajun's father, he was by no means an organizer, right? So they didn't necessarily go after like the lead quote unquote organizers of the protest. They went after some people who are well-known activists in community, but others who just happened to show up, like his son. And so I could see them using this as a playbook for other jurisdictions. And they could have charged obstruction, right? They instead charged conspiracy.
Okay. Right. It's just that's the scary part. That's where because like you said, texting somebody could be a conspiracy, right? Just saying, "Hey, are you going to a protest tonight?" Is that posting on Facebook is creating a conspiracy in that world. It's a very slippery slope for a lot of justice in this country, isn't it? There are a lot of
and in this gentleman, just to be clear about Bajun, the Afghanistan war veteran who was just convicted, whose case I've been following, he didn't post on Facebook. He didn't text anyone. He showed up. That is what he did. He showed up at a protest. He saw a post on Reddit that somebody else made, and he thought, I care about immigrants in my community. I serve my country, and I believe this is what America is about. And I have time this afternoon. So I'm going to take some time out of my day to stand up against the detention of these members of our community who have been arrested by ICE, showing up at a routine court hearing where they thought they were just going to be checking in.
Yeah.
Those individuals who were arrested, a federal judge later ruled that their arrest violated the Constitution. So in terms of whether or not his protest was just, that has been separately adjudicated. But the case that the federal government is making is that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the arrests of the migrants are legitimate or not, right? It doesn't matter if you have a First Amendment right to protest. That's the #1 amendment in the U.S. Constitution. What matters, the only thing that matters, is that we, the federal agents, are allowed to do our job. Whether or not it's right or wrong, you can't get in the way. And if you watch the video of the protest, it's clear, like, he was in the way, right?
Yeah.
He showed up. He thought that the detention of these migrants was unjust, and he joined a lot of other people in standing between the ICE agents and the ability of them to deport these individuals.
Right.
And ultimately, as you saw, they were successful in that the migrant was freed by the judge. So government under the Trump administration, that's a crime. That's what we learned.
Right. That's kind of terrifying. And with that, I do want to circle. I mean, we talked. So, I mean, in the big picture for you, I mean, you spent a lot of time. You're at Stanford. You write for the Guardian. I've known each other for those who don't understand. Aaron and I've known each other many years now. I'm honored to say I've known Aaron many years now since my time as a veterans advocate before I ever did all this new stuff. I mean, it's been a weird couple of years, and the VA. You've been following the VA's destruction. I kind of want to go. I did want to talk about a little bit too about something that ties into this. It was literally the death of a demonstrator. Alex Preddy was shot and killed, in Minneapolis. You covered that story as well. And you also covered, for me as a veteran, the fact that the VA, in this case, he was a nurse at the VA. He was well loved, wasn't he? And the VA actually was investigating those who mourned his death, weren't they?
Well, I mean, this is in fact what led Richard Barker, the U.S. attorney in Spokane, who resigned rather than sign the indictment. It is what led him to go on camera with me in an investigative piece that I broadcast in March on the PBS NewsHour.
Yeah.
He had resigned, and he had made a very obsequious LinkedIn post just saying that I had never done anything in my job that I was not proud of. And just kind of like so many of these federal officials have done, try their best to do the right thing, but not speak out.
Right.
And when he saw what happened in Minneapolis, where Renee Good and Alex Preddy were murdered by ICE agents, and instead of prosecuting the murderer, that the Justice Department moved, as you mentioned, to investigate the demonstrators.
Right.
And then he looked at the case in his own area where the demonstrators had actually been charged with conspiracy. He looked at those two together, right? And he said, he was motivated to resign by the ridiculousness of the charges in Spokane. He was motivated to speak out by the fact that this continued to escalate and culminated in the killings of innocent Americans in Minneapolis, where the killers were not going to be prosecuted.
Right.
And, if you're a prosecutor, you believe that murderers should be prosecuted. Right. Where,
Right.
Seeing that not happening was deeply disturbing to him. And he talked to me about being a Sunday school teacher and teaching people in Sunday school about right and wrong. And he basically said he couldn't show up to Sunday school anymore if he didn't speak out. And so he went on camera with me on PBS and decided to speak out. So I do think these connections, all these things are connected.
Right.
And and the situation, people are pushing back, and the situation is also escalating. And I would just say also about, there's just a story this week in the New York Times about more than 10,000 government lawyers who have resigned. But I would say that Barker, the former U.S. attorney in Spokane who resigned in this case, is one of the very few to go on camera. We haven't seen very many of these individuals speak out publicly. They've been very reluctant. And I hope if any of them are listening right now to this show, that some of them ask themselves, how are we as a country benefiting from their silence? And I would say the same thing, Fred. You and I've talked many times about all the flag officers who have been dismissed or resigned, instructors at West Point who have retired. So many of them don't want to be part of this, but are also remaining silent. And I think that, they should talk to me. They should come on your show, whatever mode allows them to comfortably speak out and participate in our democracy. I really hope that they add their voices to the conversation.
Yeah, I think we're at that point now that there's a greater issue here that's much more dangerous than anything we faced. I talk about I talk about the politicization of the military, the politicization of VA, the politicization of the veterans community in general too, and that is generational damage, isn't it, Aaron? I mean, you and I know that a general isn't created in 2 years. We don't hire people to be generals. It takes 30 years. So the damage being done, the young men and women deciding to lead the service today will not be our amazing generals 30 years from now, will they? This is generational damage if we don't attack it soon, isn't it?
I also think that the one of the other reasons that I attracted this case in Spokane, in addition to the legal precedent, is, to me, it was also a story about what it means to be an American, right? That you have a guy, he's not an immigrant. His dad, who you heard from, is not an immigrant as well, but from an immigrant family, and 3 generations back, whose grandfather came to this country looking for a better life, that he and his father both signed up to serve in the military, to serve their country, with the idea that being an immigrant is part of being an American. His girlfriend, his mother also served in the military. His mother was in the army. His girlfriend is also an Afghanistan war veteran, and she happens to be trans, right? And all of these people are part of America, right? And so when you have these values and you're part of America, and you see innocent people being arrested by ICE, it gets to you, right? And you feel like you have to show up. On the other hand, with the Trump administration, it's not only that he's on trial for conspiracy, it's also that Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense are saying that people with the name Malvalwalla are less than. That trans veterans, even if they saved lives, Army medic in Afghanistan, that they are less than, right? And that women, like his mother, who signed up to serve in the military, are less than. But you were in the war in Iraq. I covered it as a journalist. Anyone who's been involved in these wars over the last 20 years knows that women can serve in combat, knows that people of color are just as brave as white people, knows that immigrants are the core of not only of our country, but of our military, knows that trans people are excellent soldiers, right? And so it really this case, I think, touches on all of these fissures that are so important for us to understand.
I agree. I think it's a great place for us to wrap, actually. So, Aaron, where can I was thank you for following these cases, and thanks for your dedication to getting this truth out and telling the truth. It's been huge. That's why I follow you. I read your newsletters, and all your articles. Where can find? I obviously you write for the Guardian. Where else can everybody find keep track?
I mean, people can just go. I'm on the social media, and I think people can go look up my work at the Guardian. People can find my page at the Stanford Center for the Advanced Study of Behavioral Sciences, where I'm a fellow. And Fred, I'm sure you and I will have a chance to talk again. And I really appreciate you shining the light on the threats to our democracy week in, week out. It's truly important work.
Thanks, bro. It's very great talking to you. I look forward to talking again, sir.
All right, take care.
Join us. Cheers. Great conversations, great men. If you don't follow Aaron Glantz, you're making a huge mistake. He is a huge, a wonderful voice, a brilliant. Look, you don't get a Stanford fellowship if you don't do it, right? So I'm very privileged to know I have known him for many years. Last thing I'll say, I want to echo something he said that I even wrote it down. By the way, if you ever see me looking down here and writing notes, because my guests say really smart stuff, and that's one of the great things about this show. I'm not your typical show, right? We're not here raging and yelling. We talk about democracy here, and I appreciate you guys being such loyal fans. So many of you join us every week and then watch us. But the thing is, breaking the silence, folks. It's time. Isn't it time? If you are watching the show, if you're in a position of power, if you're witnessing these crimes, it's time we speak out. And I know it's hard. It's scary. You're going to lose. You could lose friends. You could lose your living. I get it. But we are truly losing our democracy. Trump has struck fear into his own party. Republicans won't stand up anymore. There's no adults in the room. Markwayne Mullin's 1,000 times worse than Kristi Noem. In many ways, we went frying pan deep into the fire. We went frying pan into the freaking volcano with Markwayne Mullin because he's a very, very deeply duplicitous and rotten human being who will gladly throw Americans in jail if it helps him. And we have got to stand up. So I urge you, if you know folks who have information, this is the time to get with people like Aaron Glantz. Get with people who you trust who are journalists and tell the truth because, folks, this is real. This is not a joke anymore. And if you're not involved in elections, I say it every week, find yourself a local politician who needs your help, a local candidate, because I guarantee they need your help. And I can ask one favor. Don't call a candidate and say you want to offer strategy help. I know we all want to do strategy. I'm sorry. At this point in the cycle, guys, it's June. They don't need strategy. I know. I'm sorry. I hate breaking your hearts. Everyone wants to do strategy. They need you to knock doors. They need you to donate. They need you to put a sign in your yard. They need you to stand on the side of the road with 5 of your friends waving signs saying, hey, go for this guy. They need you to sit at the farmer's market with their signs and their flyers and they're lit and talk to people. That's what we need right now. They need you to go on social media. A lot of candidates now have social media squads that kind of echo their information. Whatever you can do from your chair or from your local neighborhood, please do that because this is what's going on, folks. This thing, the reason we call this show On Democracy is because our democracy is in danger. We've been talking about it for a long time. We have to get in the fight now. With that, I'll let you go. It's a great show. I really appreciate you. We will see you again next week right here, same bad channel, same bad time. I look forward to talking to you. I'm Fred Wellen on Democracy right here on the Mustache Network. Have a great week. Stay safe out there.